Hi everybody, it's Robbie from Southern California and we are going to go visit
Gary.
So what do you have to say where we are?
Well, we're down in my garden.
Okay.
And this is one of my new ponds.
I haven't been down here.
The first one I set up is my strawberry pond. So last year I set up my first pond. I was very happy with that and it gave me a lot of ideas, and I've been exploring, trying to figure out plants that I can grow in what I'm calling my wetland food forest. So it's kind of a take on the food forest, but it's a wetland. It's just another ecosystem that I'm setting up. So what I've got here, I don't know what you would call it. It's a wicking bed. So I've got my strawberries in a small swimming pool. It's a kiddie pool or a wading pool. I got the larger pools, set them up first, and then I set up these pools and I filled them with sifted wood chips. Then I went in and I planted strawberries. The first ones I planted were Seascape. I got those from Robbie's Strawberry Towers. So they're doing well. They're a ever-bearing variety. So to divide those, to make more plants, they're clumping, so you just divide them by breaking them apart. The other variety that I've got is a summer-bearing, and it's called Chandler. I planted the Seascape in April, early April. I planted the Chandler in May. So this has been set up in less than 2 months.
I have a question.
Yes?
How come I haven't seen any of these strawberries up at the house yet?
Because they're really ripening up now. So I've got a lot of strawberries to pick. I have them set up this way. There's a lot of things I like about it. A few features of this. It's kind of a water feature. It's like a mini Chinampus, which is how the Aztecs grew in Mexico City. I've got a moat on the outside. I don't have to deal with snails and slugs and crawling bugs because they can't get across the moat. So the strawberries are in really good shape. I've added some black plastic sheeting under the fruit themselves. So I'm kind of growing it in a plasticulture way, not like commercial growers. They grow it under black plastic sheeting. One of the reasons is to protect the fruit. The other is to make sure that the roots are moist. But to protect the fruit, I had to put in cut up pieces of black plastic, because if the fruit sit on the wood chips, they'll start to go bad. The plants themselves really like this environment. In the wild, they grow in forest clearings and meadows. So in a forest clearing, they'd be growing in leaf mold, or basically the wild form of wood chips. So they like this. The wicking action of the wood chips. The wood chips are hygroscopic, so they absorb water. And the particles are small enough or big enough that the water just stays in the wood chips, and there's an airspace between the wood chips. I have the smaller pond sitting on sifted sand. I set it up a little different to the way I'm going to set it up now. So basically what I've done, and I'm going to replicate it over there, I built my raised bed out of concrete blocks. I set some sand underneath the big pool just to make it soft. Over there I took one of these pools that I got from Robbie. They were in her garden. They were already pre-drilled, so there's holes on the outside here. I put sand over there, but in this one I'm going to put another pool underneath. I'm going to put the sand in the pool underneath and bring it up to the level that I want, so it sits level. So this will sit above the water line. Going back to the other one, the weight of the wood chips have pushed the sand out from underneath. So if you look at it, it's not level anymore. this end's sunk. So it's okay, but it would have been better if I had had this sitting in another smaller pool, because the water here is only maybe 6 inches deep. It looks dirty, but it's just high in tannins. So the water's clean, but it's got tannins leaching out from the wood chips. I do have fish in here. I have mosquito eaters or gambusia. I knew before I started that they would survive in this climate or this environment. I've seen them along the Murray River in southeastern Australia in the billabongs, and over summer the billabongs are high in tannins from the eucalyptus leaves, so I know they can handle high tannin water. An environment where there might be some chemicals from the leaves and wood chips themselves, so they're doing well. In fact, I've got a lot of babies right now. I've got a couple of other plants in here that I put in. I put in the celery, and I got some mint that I got from Robbie. So the mint is starting to take off. It's taking off over there. This was not ideal to put the mint in, but because I had it, I want to set that up in a separate bed. And that would be one way to control mint. If you wanted to grow mint and you didn't want it to take over, if you had it in a system like this with a moat, you could stop it. You just have to trim it along the edge of the moat when it started to leaf. But it's very easy. The raised bed makes it easy. I can sit on the edge if I want. I can reach over and harvest strawberries. So it's just a matter of picking strawberries. And because I've got wood chips on the top of my raised bed, I can stand on them. It's not going to compress the soil. So if I have to get some from further in, I can just reach in and maintain them that way.
Really good.
So there's no snails, no slugs, and no crawling bugs. There's also no watering, and no feeding, and no weeding. The only weeding I have to do is occasionally a seed might come up, but it's easy just to prick it out. It's not going to cause a problem. So I've got a couple of seeds that have blown in. You just pop them right out and discard those. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, these, the runners.
Oh, that's right, those are runners.
These are runners, and some of them, I've started to move them around. They want to leave. I don't want to create a bridge over my moat, so it's just a matter of moving them in, tucking them under the wood chips, and I'll start getting new plants. I did this one a while ago, and the leaves are starting to take off, so it's probably starting to set root. Yeah, this one's starting to set root already. So by the end of the season, I'll have a lot of new plants. I've only had it set up for 2 months, so I don't know how it's going to go over the year. I do know the seascape because they live year round. They might do well over winter. The summer bearing ones, they might die off a bit. I'm not sure yet. I just have to look at it and monitor the progress. The celery I just put in as an experiment. I noticed this one's bolting, but the foliage is a little bit lighter green than the ones I've got growing on the outside of the pond. So that's a good comparison. They're still doing well, and they're growing well in this environment. I wasn't sure how they'd go. That's just another experiment I'm doing. They taste just the same as the ones growing in soil. I wanted to circulate the water a bit, so I set up a water fountain pump. I set it up in this jar here. I had to put fine tool in it, around it, because my original one, the baby fish were getting in, so I put the finer tool in. And this is a simple jar, just with tool wrapped around it, tightened at the top, and I made a little hook that clips on the inside.
Is that a plastic or a glass jar? Looks like a plastic mayonnaise.
It's a plastic mayonnaise jar, yeah.
So you could use any jar.
You could use any jar. Yeah, it's a plastic mayonnaise jar. I just cut holes in the side so the water can get in. I wasn't sure if I'd have to weight it down because I figured plastic floats, but I cut the holes a little higher so that there is water underneath, and with the clip it doesn't move.
Let's explain that really good. So that you made holes into the mayonnaise jar itself so the water will flow back and forth.
Yeah, so water can get inside.
Okay.
So the top part is above the water line. This cutout section is below the water line, so the water can flow in and the pump can draw the water in. I wanted to put an extra filter in. The pumps are designed for clean water, and as you can see I've got some duckweed stuck to the side and probably pieces of wood chip and maybe algae. I didn't want that to block the pump up. And from time to time all I have to do is pull the pump out and clean it. So I've got access to it at any point.
And the lid, you did something with the lid. You cut the lid?
Yeah, I cut
I see what you did.
I cut the lid out. See these little clips? Clip in like so. I put a couple of holes on either side of the jar. I don't know if you can see that. And I bent some wire to make a little clip that can just slide in, go through the holes. That creates a hanger, and the pump just drops straight in. And with the lid, I cut a hole in the center, and I cut the edges so it's more of a cap than a lid now. So instead of turning it around, the tool would twist with it. I just use it like a cap. Because of the splits, it springs open and shuts like that. So now the tool is tucked underneath. So I've got a large enough piece of tool that I could bundle to the top, trim the excess, and that's self-contained.
I mean, worst came to worst, if somebody broke their lid, they could probably tie it on with wire if they had to.
Yeah,
the tool.
I put a little piece of bell wire just around the top to hold the tool so I could get the lid on. So that was just to hold the tool until I got the lid fitted right, and then I pulled the tool tight, and it kind of sits pretty good. It's not folded up too much.
Yeah, that's nice wire. It's a thin, flexible, plastic-coated wire.
Yeah, I buy rolls of it from the hardware store. You use it for, it's in the wiring section. You use it for electronics or for doorbells, that sort of thing. And when the sun hits it, the water I have it set up so the water creates a river. So it flows in a circular motion just to aerate the water and just so it doesn't get stagnant. Yeah, the fish really like this. They seem to congregate around the falling water, and maybe that's where they feed. I did put this wire on the outside just in case a lizard falls in or a bird falls in. They have ways of climbing out again. So that's what the wire's for. I've done that in a couple of places. I think that's pretty much it, but this is how I'm growing my strawberries.
This is beautiful. Now I know where I'm coming to get strawberries. So before we wrap this up, Couple questions, just because I know viewers may ask. If they didn't want to do a moat, they could still get one of these, I guess they have so many names, these kiddie pools or kids, what do they call them?
Wading pools.
Wading pools. They're a hard plastic. Well, they're flexible, but they're a hard plastic. They're cheap. You can get them almost anywhere, and they're like $6, $7 if you get the small ones. And that would work for just anybody to set up strawberries.
Yeah, even if you just wanted it as a planter, you could drill the holes in the sides wherever you want. You could use it as a wicking bed. And I would put a jar or a piece of pipe in to the bottom so that you could see that there was water underneath. Strawberries have shallow roots, so I don't know if they're sending their roots down under the waterline or staying above the waterline. But by having a wicking bed like this, you wouldn't have to water as often. And if you're away at work and it gets hot, you know your plants are still going to have water.
That's really a cheap way of setting up a beautiful strawberry feature like this to enjoy for the summer. That is really nice. So just keep the holes above the bottom, because if you put it on the bottom, all the water will drain out. But if you put them, depending on, I guess, on their climate, their weather, how much rain they get.
Yeah, depending on their climate. If you needed, we don't get a lot of summer rain, so I would keep the excess overflow holes fairly high here. But if you're in an area where you get a lot of rain, like back east or in the south, I would put the holes in the side lower.
I guess that's it then. That is really cool. I mean, a beautiful little raised bed, because especially strawberries have such a shallow root system. They don't need much of anything. Very little soil and whatever else you grow them in. What do you grow them in? Wood chips.
I grow them in wood chips.
Wood chips and sand.
I've got an example of the type of wood chips I'm talking about.
Okay, let's get over here. See, we thought we were done, but we're not. Oh, that's my strawberry. I threw it there. It might grow.
So using my sifting trommel, I use the 1 by 1/2 inch screen, and this is the material I'm getting. It's a medium, I call it a medium. So it sifts all the coarse stuff out, so the coarse stuff goes on my walkway. So I don't want the coarse stuff in. I could use the fine screen, the 1/4 inch screen, but it's not necessary. So I save those for pots or areas I'm going to plant seed. But at this grade, it gives it some bulk and it makes sure there's plenty of airspace.
So this is mainly what you're growing it in, is wood chips?
That's all that I'm growing.
Oh, you don't have any soil or anything in there?
No soil. It's soilless.
Oh,
the only soil would be what the strawberries came in from the nursery. That's the only soil they're getting.
So they are growing in straight wood chips.
Straight wood chips.
Which is breaking down into a wonderful mulch.
Yeah, there's no mineral soil here.
Wow. It's very wet in there.
Okay, there's root. I didn't
I
look.
Can't get there.
But all the roots, the strawberry roots.
Okay, let's see if I can climb up without falling into your
Yeah, these are all strawberry roots.
So they're on the surface and going down. Look at that.
Yeah, all these fine roots here are their feeder roots, and that's travelling above the waterline. So as you go deeper into the waterline, there's not really any roots down there. So it's probably, I'm going to say, 3 inches of roots. Okay.
Okay, well, this is beautiful. And it's good to see, and I see you have red vein sorrel and other things all around it. So what else do you have to say?
Well, that's about it. It's basically about my strawberries today, and with that, thanks for watching. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. You could always find more videos on Robbie's container gardening on our channel. That's Robbie and Gary, gardening easy. And with that, thanks for watching, and don't forget to eat what you grow.
Oh, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
That was mine.